This is where your iPhone 6 comes from. These are the first secret pictures from inside the factories that produce for Apple.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for huge tech-based scandals that have been largely forgotten.
When I read the article, it sounded absolutely horrible, but it just didn't resonate with a company I worked for many years.
Stories that are still relevant or well-remembered will not be included. Number 10. The Volkswagen emissions scandal. In 2015, the world was stunned when the Environmental Protection Agency came after Volkswagen.
So let's be clear about this. Our company was dishonest with the EPA and the California Air Resources Board, and with all of you. And in my German words, we have totally screwed up.
The German carmaker had intentionally manipulated their diesel engines, ensuring that they met emission standards during regulatory testing. However, these controls were only activated once a lab test had begun. At any other time, such as on the road, the emission controls were not activated, and the cars spewed pollutants into the air.
And Volkswagen took a decision to fit technology and software to their vehicle, knowing that their cars will produce much more, in the case of the US, 40 times more pollution on the road than they were allowed to.
Volkswagen deployed 11 million cars in this manner, knowing full well that they had worked around a federal law. The company faced a number of repercussions from numerous jurisdictions, but it seems like everyone has since forgotten about it.
What we see listening to the company, talk to dealers and to suppliers, there's no major change in the way Volkswagen is doing business in the sense of cutting production schedule, ordering fewer parts, etc. Consumers are not running away from the brands that you would expect.
In fact, Volkswagen revenue continues to grow and has done so since 2015. Number 9. Apple removes the headphone jack. Apple changed the game once again with the introduction of the iPhone 7. Released in 2016, it was the first major smartphone to abandon the traditional 3.5mm headphone jack.
But it really comes down to one word: courage. The courage to move on, do something new that betters all of us. And our team has tremendous courage.
This announcement became worldwide news and was met with scathing reactions. Technology outlets wrote entire articles bemoaning the loss of the headphone jack. Social media was ablaze with hostile reactions. And Apple Vice President Phil Schiller was relentlessly mocked for calling the decision courageous.
I do think that it was monetarily motivated, at least in some way.
It wasn't a coincidence that they released the AirPods at the same time they took away the headphone jack. It was something that wasn't making them money, so they got rid of it so people would buy the AirPods.
But this all meant nothing. The iPhone 7 saw enormous pre-sale numbers, became the biggest iPhone launch for T-Mobile, and was the best-selling smartphone of the first quarter of 2017. And concern about the missing headphone jack has long faded, as most other smartphone developers have followed suit in recent years.
It looks like the headphone jack is gone for good when it comes to the top-end flagship phones.
I think they are going for the portless phone, and they won't stop until they get there.
Number 8. Tay. So, Tay was a bad idea. Did you forget about her? Well, let us remind you. Microsoft released this AI chatbot onto the world, and perhaps unsurprisingly, internet trolls quickly got a hold of it.
Now, the company created an artificial intelligence chatbot. It was a computer that they named Tay, who was designed to respond to questions and conversations on Twitter with the personality of a teenage girl. So you can see there she started out by
That's a bad idea right there.
It doesn't sound great, does it?
They began writing to the chatbot and manipulating its responses, resulting in an AI teenager that was horribly racist, misogynistic, anti-Semitic, and deeply into conspiracy theories.
One critic tweeted, "Microsoft, you didn't anticipate this?" Said another, "What did they expect it would learn from social media? Parents, take note."
Mommy and Daddy Microsoft quickly took her home and grounded her, claiming that Tay needed to, quote, make some adjustments. Yeah, that's putting it lightly. Tay was eventually taken offline, another target of trolls just looking for a laugh.
Needless to say, Microsoft has now taken Tay offline after less than 24 hours. They said that they would be making some adjustments to her.
Number 7, people. Remember that episode of Black Mirror where people rate each other on a 1 to 5 scale? Yeah, this is that. We often hear, oh, this is Black Mirror in real life, but this is actually Black Mirror in real life.
Yelp reviews for people.
Yes,
No?
that's what we've been called, yeah.
Oh, really?
That's what we've been called, the Yelp for people, yeah.
Is that, you don't like that title?
Well, in I can't really defend it because I'm the one that started it. Oh. So I can't be upset.
Announced in 2015, People was an app that allowed its users to rate each other on various scales, whether of a professional or personal nature. Naturally, this announcement was met with widespread criticism.
That was never anybody's concern. So you have to imagine how surprised all of us were. We never would intend harm with a product or an app. That's just not who we are. I didn't really anticipate the negative attention.
Not only is the concept of rating people inherently creepy, but it strongly encourages the use of cyber harassment. The blowback was so fierce that the app's developers quickly reworked it and released a tamer version in 2016 without the star system.
There are no postings without your permission. So all the recommendations that people are going to write about you, you have full control over what goes live on your profile.
It helped, but it didn't help the app from fading into obscurity. Number 6, Amazon working conditions. Amazon became the target of national outrage in 2015 when the New York Times published its investigative piece, Inside Amazon.
This was a brutal article that made it sound like working at Amazon was a little bit like taking part in the Hunger Games.
By interviewing over 100 employees, they uncovered horrible working conditions within the global company. This included long hours, unreasonably high expectations, and a generally toxic and hostile environment.
There is definitely a sense from people that we talk to that Amazon does not really care about their personal lives. You can't reveal any weaknesses or you will be in trouble.
The piece was well received and ignited a firestorm, while also opening public discourse about workers' rights. But, as is often the case with these types of stories, it disappeared as quickly as it was published.
Do you think this is going to hurt Amazon on the bottom line?
I don't think so. And unless this really mushrooms, I think it was good that they got ahead of this and responded right away, because we're heading into a very critical shopping season. It's the most important season for them and for everyone else.
Few, if any, are still talking about it, and Amazon revenue continues to grow at a rapid clip. Number 5, the Foxconn scandal. Sometimes tragic stories get forgotten, and that seems to be the case with the Foxconn scandal.
As Apple surged towards its status as the world's most valuable company, the calls for it to account for how its wildly popular iPads and iPhones are made have grown.
For those who don't know, Foxconn is the Taiwanese electronics manufacturer that is responsible for making iPhones, among other products. The company's Chinese factories exhibit horrible working conditions, resulting in a rash of employees taking their own lives.
Apple has changed how we listen to music, how we see movies, how we use our iPhones, how we use computers. They have the creativity and the capital to make this better. They can make their products without horrible human suffering.
A majority of these deaths occurred in 2010. Foxconn's response only fueled the controversy, as they installed safety nets to prevent future incidents and forced their employees to sign pledges claiming that they wouldn't take their own lives.
Apple has been championing itself as a perfect enterprise, but it is all a facade. I don't think they care about the workers at all.
This was big news, yet it did nothing to stymie demand for the iPhone or Apple products in general. Number 4, women shouldn't ask for raises. Satya Nadella's words, not ours. Nadella became CEO of Microsoft in 2014, and it didn't take him long to spark national outrage.
Microsoft's new CEO under fire for these comments at a women's tech conference.
It's not really about asking for the raise, but knowing and having faith that the system will actually give you the right raises as you go along.
Nadella was attending the Grace Hopper celebration of women in computing when he made the PR blunder of his career. Nadella was asked what female workers should do if they're afraid of asking for a raise. Nadella quickly insinuated that women shouldn't ask for a raise, but just have faith that one will eventually come along.
That's good karma. It'll come back. Because somebody's going to know that's the kind of person that I want to trust. That's the kind of person that I want to really give more responsibility to.
It's a controversial thing to say at the best of times, never mind at a conference aimed at empowering and celebrating women. Naturally, Nadella's comments caused an uproar and he was quick to backpedal, eventually calling his answer, quote, completely nonsensical.
I was answering a question literally using my own personal experience without understanding the broader context, the depth of that question.
Number 3, Apple versus FBI. To what extent are manufacturers responsible for aiding law enforcement? How far does personal security go? These were the major questions at the heart of the epic Apple versus FBI case of 2016.
Essentially, we're asking Apple, take the vicious guard dog away, let us try and pick the lock.
Comey said the FBI asked every part of the U.S. government to crack the phone and concluded only Apple held the key.
On December 2nd, 2015, 2 shooters attacked the Inland Regional Center in San Bernardino, killing 14 and injuring 22. A smartphone was recovered from one of the shooters, but was locked behind a password. The FBI demanded that Apple write new software and unlock the phone, but they said no.
We think that protecting the security and the privacy of hundreds of millions of iPhone users is the right thing to do. That's the reason that we're doing this.
People argued for Apple and people argued for the FBI. It was a moral dilemma for the ages, yet it all came to naught. The FBI eventually hired a third party who cracked the phone, yet they found nothing but work-related information.
The FBI director told us last week that an outside source, not Apple, had come forward offering a new way to crack open the killer's iPhone. Tonight, we now know the hack was successful, and the Justice Department has just filed a motion asking a federal judge to drop the case.
Number 2, ISIS Mobile Wallet. Remember ISIS Mobile Wallet?
With the technology, customers can use their phone as their payment option. The way it works is pretty simple. Users sync a credit or debit card to their phone. And when they check out, all they have to do is activate the app and place the phone on the pad to complete their purchase.
Probably not, because they quickly changed their name for the best. Announced in 2010, the wallet allowed users to store financial information on their smartphone and pay for items at stores. It was launched nationwide in 2013, the same year that the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria was created. Known by the abbreviation ISIS, the terrorist organization put a quick damper on the ISIS Mobile Wallet.
Tell us what it's called again.
It's called ISIS Mobile Wallet.
The shared name wasn't their fault, but it was enough to cause a brief PR nightmare, and ISIS quickly rebranded itself as SoftCard. And with that, the scandal was forgotten. And it went from forgotten to buried when SoftCard was bought by Google in 2015 and replaced by Google Wallet.
Okay, so maybe Google Wallet is different. In a good way. In many good ways.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1. The death of Aaron Schwartz. Often heralded as a tech martyr, Reddit founder Aaron Schwartz is a tragic figure who died in the fight for open access. In September 2010, Schwartz began illegally downloading millions of academic articles from JSTOR.
Aaron allegedly downloaded millions of academic journals from MIT's network. He believed that academic research shouldn't be hidden behind a paywall.
He did this through an unlocked wiring cupboard at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, prompting campus police to arrest him for breaking and entering. He was later charged with wire fraud and violating the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act.
You know, Aaron was charged with all of these charges. I mean, what was your initial reaction?
Reaction was one of just complete horror. I mean, it made no sense.
For this, he faced up to 35 years in prison. After denying a potential plea bargain, Schwartz ended his life in his Brooklyn apartment. Dead at just 26, Schwartz became the public face of open access, and prosecutor Carmen Ortiz came under criticism for her decision to indict him.
That also sort of inflamed the feelings and sort of criticism about MIT's handling of this incident, as well as the government's handling of this case.
Do you remember any of these scandals? Let us know in the comments below.
This is an incredibly complex issue. To place a backdoor in the iPhone, we believe it does put hundreds of millions of customers at risk.